the record, and we'll have a look at the course itself right now. It starts alongside the D-Day Museum and the Aquarium. Once it starts, it goes on to Clarence Esplanade and then Pembroke Road, and then the early mileage through the historic naval base and past HMS Victory, and then finally out through the Marlborough Gate, Queen Street, Anglesey Road, and left now on Winston Churchill Road, and then east and west. It comes back again towards the 5-mile mark, then down Western Parade and Clarence Parade to 6 miles, and then Eastern Parade up to 7 miles, and then St George's Road, that little jink upwards, and then to Henderson Road at 8 miles, and then they turn back along the seafront, along the Eastway Esplanade, Southsea Esplanade, past the pier eventually at 9, just after 9 miles, to finish at 10 miles. Well, Joe Pavey quite happy to take this one on, certainly, and Gemma Steele has latched on behind her. Certainly all the principals, as one would expect, gathered there together. I see Aguirre on the right, who was second in the Birmingham run, the Kate Avery at the back, and this is going to be a good race, I fancy, and it will certainly be a challenge for Vivian Cheruiyot, although there's so much talent, as David said earlier, champion of the world over 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters, but 10,000 more recently in Beijing, and that was some performance, it really was. But she's been around an awful long time, since the age of 15, incidentally, when she took the junior silver medal at the World Cross Country Championships behind someone we got to know quite well in Workanesh Kidani. So look at the way in which that has now spread out. Kate Avery in the background in the all-black strip is leading that trailing group, but there's already a bunch right out in front here and establishing a very, very quick pace indeed. I won't be surprised if we're near that 5 minutes and 6 for that first mile. It's pretty flat. But Cheruiyot looks on the left, but this race beginning to unfold. It's looking very, very good indeed. Now, Joe Pavey, once again, looks to me to be full of confidence. Can she keep this going? We'll soon see. Well, the group has emerged, hasn't it, from this field. The first mile a little bit slower than we anticipated would happen at 5:15, and if they were going to challenge the 5:06 average that was set right back by Sonia O'Sullivan in 2002 when she set the championship record, or the course record, at 51 minutes. There have only been a couple close to that. In fact, Paula Radcliffe at 51:11 in 2008 was pretty well the closest, and of course Derata Tulu of Ethiopia in 2005 at 51:27. So they have been close and thereabouts, but that Sonia O'Sullivan run, absolutely superb. They're now coming into the historic dockyard, of course, and that dockyard which houses the HMS Victory, the Nelson's flagship, launched in 1765 at the Battle of Trafalgar, and of course the Mary Rose as well. But talking about the Victory, which they will soon pass, they've actually just repainted it and taken off 72 layers of paint, I'm told, and examined carefully, and the colour, there it is on the bottom left of your shot, and they've discovered that the colour of Victory's hull when she fought in Trafalgar was not the mustard orange, but a pale ochre. I'm not sure what colour that is, actually, but it is back to its natural colour now. And of course the Mary Rose, of course, here has one of the first ships to be able to fire a full broadside, I'm told.
It is a great, I mean, what a wonderful sight that is, isn't it wonderful when, you know, the past meets the present. Little did the builders of Victory know that one day there'll be some of the greatest athletes in the world running past her. But it is phenomenal, and it's a wonderful location for a distance race.
Yes, indeed, and there's a familiar sight. Vivian Cheruiyot has now taken on the run, and I think that that's Changewo in second place behind her, the slightly taller figure. But we'll have to look and see what they do in over the second mile. But the race already beginning to emerge with Vivian Cheruiyot leading the charge.
Yes, and that's probably quite
hanging on, but Chariot, well, we said it's her debut over 10 miles. That does not matter. Hey, look at this. It is Changewa. We're just confirming that for you. And there's a big gap opening up, and I'm not surprised, because if any attempt was to be made on that course record, they have to get this quicker, because those first 2 miles were much too slow. They looked as though they were going well, I must say, and the conditions are perfect. I have to say that they're absolutely perfect. And Chariot, who made her breakthrough, what, in 15, as I said, all those years ago, but she's represented Kenya in Sydney in 2000, or just looking back at Gemma Steele and Joe Pavey, who are tracking there. I think that's they're in 4th and 5th place, and I think that's Betsy Sainer in front of Gemma Steele and Joe Pavey. So those three, they're the chasing group. There we are. It is Joe Pavey in well, Joe isn't in 3rd place. Oh, yes, in that chasing group she is. You're quite right. That's the caption is absolutely right. Sainer, Steele and Pavey in that order. But the break came all of a sudden, and Vivian Chariot, let me just say a little more about her. As I said, she competed in the 2000 Summer Olympics, 2008, 2012. She holds the Kenyan record and the Commonwealth record at 5,000 meters, 14:20:89. That's the sort of class you've got. That is tough running, and really, when you consider that, and then she comes to the World Championships in Beijing and wins the 10,000 meter gold medal. I mean, there's such talent. When you look at Changewa in 2nd place, she's rocking and rolling already. I mean, this is smooth, fast, accelerated running, and I would love to see that. Oh, 5 minutes and 2 for the following for the 3rd mile, and that is all about a champion realizing that she could go for the record, and she knows it's early enough for her to make an assault on that record. Now, 5:02 is quick. That's very quick.
It is quick, and you know, we said at the beginning of the program that Chariot was one of the greatest distance runners the world's ever seen, and this is why she has that sort of status, with multiple world and Olympic medals at 5,000 and 10,000 meters. But to run 5 minutes 2 on the 3rd mile, running a distance you've never run before, and she looks so smooth, and my guess is if she can put back-to-back 5-minute 5 miles together, she could be getting back towards Sonia O'Sullivan's time. And when Sonia did that, 51 minutes, it again was one of the best ever runs over this distance. She's by any athlete in the world, any female athlete. So, you know, some of the greatest female distance runners have run this race. Chariot joins that group today, and if she can keep the pace going, then she's going to be close to 51 minutes, and that's you know, really impressive.
Very, very smooth, deep in concentration, lovely, lovely stride pattern. And Changewa now is, if it's correct terminology, in no man's territory, off about 15 meters and drifting back further and further. I'm not surprised with that 5:02, I must admit. That really did push it along. 5:15, 5:17, 5:02. And we're looking for an average of 5:06, which is the O'Sullivan 51-minute 10-mile time. But this young woman looks absolutely in total control, doesn't she? The Olympic 5th in the Olympics, of course, in 2008 over 5,000 meters. Hasn't she come on so quickly? Because in 2009 she was world champion after that 5th place in the Olympic Games in 2008. Commonwealth champion. She's done it all, really, and now moving up gradually in distances. She won a 12K race, incidentally, in Cape Town in May, and probably in preparation for this extra 10 miles. Yeah. Wonderful stuff, wonderful stuff. But of course, we've got a terrific men's race in prospect coming up very shortly, and I know that they'll all be assembling along with the 20,000 or so who will follow them, chasing all sorts of causes. We've heard for fitness, we've heard for charity, and I'll mention one or two of those little groups a little bit later on once the elite races get underway. But we're going to meet the men now. This is one of the great fields. The course record stands to Joseph Abuya, set in 2010 at 45 minutes and 16 seconds. And Benson Masha of Kenya, the only other man under 46 minutes, actually. So let's just meet the principals now on this men's lineup. You can hear the announcer in the background, probably. We saw Chris just 1 week ago. Yeah, very popular. Great Birmingham Run champion just a week ago after injury. He says he's had problems. We'll talk about more about that when the race gets underway. And Emmanuel Bett won this race in 2013. Great Scottish Run second placer in that year too. Well, Martin Mathathi of Kenya, a lot to say about Mathathi. World Championship 10,000 metre bronze medalist in 2007. Got a bronze in the World Cross Country the year earlier in 2006. Well, Jaspeth Korea, World Cross Country champion in 2013. Great Ireland Run champion this year. And this is a man we saw winning the Great Scottish Run this season. Moses Kipzero, Commonwealth 10,000 metre champion twice. Defended his title in Glasgow in 2014. Local dignitaries wheeled out for these ceremonies, and the elite field gets underway. And I just wonder where the real power will come from. We know that Kipzero has got the finish. We've seen that already. There'll be much to say about him as the race emerges. We know about Jaspeth Korea. But look at the way in which that field has spread out, David. All of a sudden, I mean, they really are setting off quickly.
They are, and if we looked at sort of 5 minutes a mile for the women being the benchmark for a super fast times, then 4 minutes 30 for the men brings them in around about 45 minutes, and probably be a bit slower than that. But again, this is such a strong field. You know, Moses Kipzero, the double Commonwealth champion, again one of the greatest distance runners. Jaspeth Korea has won the World Cross Country Championships. Now that is one of the hardest titles to win in running, because the World Cross Country Championships brings together 1,500 metre, 5,000, 10,000 steeplechase marathon runners, and anyone who's run that race is phenomenally gifted.
Just looking at all the masses, personal stopwatches being clicked, they've got the little chips on which will give them their time certainly, but they need to know where they are at various points on the race. There are 3 points at which they can get refreshment to hydrate. They've learned all about that. There's a lot of teaching going on prior to these races.
Yeah, there's 25,000 runners this weekend, 20,000 now, and the 10,000 metres has a wonderful simplicity. So whether you do 5-minute miling or 10-minute miling or 8-minute miling or whatever, you just multiply that number, run consistently, and you'll know exactly where you are. So the 10 miles is a very traditionally British event, but across the world it has a real sort of resonance. And as I said, this is the greatest 10-mile event in the world, the leading event in the world. It also combines the England Championships, both men and women. So we can't forget that the first English finishers and clubs win that title today. So there's plenty to go for.
Well, certainly that's right. The Club Championship means that on each of the 9 Great Run series during the season, the winners, the 7 men and 7 women from the club, they are put into a hat at the end of this race, or at the end of after this race is finished. Then they will see who comes out top, and they will go to Ethiopia to meet the great Haile Gebrselassie. Well, that is Mathathi in the lead in the all-yellow strip on the left. Looking there, there's Deki. Much about Deki. He's Takahiro Deki of Japan, and personal best of 2:10 in the marathon. Then we can catch up the Chris Thompson actually right in the middle as we leave that shot, and there he is right in the middle. He's about in 5th, right in the middle with number 5 on his back and the green top. That's Chris Thompson. But the leader is the Japanese, but Joe Pavey in 3rd place, Gemma Steele in 4th, and then you've got Saina, that's Betsy Saina, bronze in the African Championships in 10,000 back in 2012, just to start off her career. She's been studying in America, been at American University. She's running the NCAA Championships, won their title in 2013. 69.27 half marathon for Saina, just latched onto the back of Steele. But my goodness me, let me update you now. The 4th mile was 5 minutes and 9. We'll have a look and see what the advantage is now. Look at Chengewa. Chengewa really tried to go with Vivian Chariot, and look at the way Chariot's got away from this field. That's an enormous lead. So so quickly after 4 miles, and they said, well, this is her debut, but where on earth is she? I mean, that is an incredible lead. Look at that. That is astonishing. To make that over 4 miles, to be that far ahead. Look at the mileage. First two pretty slow, and that third mile, the 5:02, really started to put the pressure on. Chang'e tried to go with it, and obviously has now suffered and falls back in the field, and is now falling back towards the two British athletes, Gemma Steele and Jo Pavey. So, this is some run.
It is a fantastic run, and although we say that Cheruiyot has never raced over 10 miles, in training she'll have run significantly further than that. You know, huge mileages over a range of distances at a range of different speeds. She's not coming back today. She's away. She's running consistently now, 5:5, 5:10. Brilliant run, really impressive.
Well, she's one of those athletes that transfers from the track to the roads, and many of these men are the same, but I guess that the Japanese here, Takehiro, is leading. He was 13th in the Tokyo Marathon in 2:11:14 just recently, and so there must be a bit of tiredness in those legs, I would think. He's got a 29:22 personal best, but Mathathi, now a lot to say about Mathathi. Mathathi holds the 10-mile world junior record at 44 minutes and 51 seconds, set in 2004. But he gained selection for the World Championships in 2011, came 5th in the men's 10,000 that year, and then set the course record for the Great North Run, which we saw happening, and that was 58 minutes and 56 seconds. So he, the guy in the yellow on the left, holds the Great North Run record, sub 59. That is pretty tough running, David.
Well, again, you know, we used to think that, you know, would anybody run under 60 minutes for a half marathon? Now we're thinking, could anybody run under 2 hours for a marathon? And these guys that have run 58 minutes for a half marathon are phenomenal. And Mathathi is just another in a great line of Kenyan distance runners that just almost take your breath away. And it's great that Chris Thompson's still in that pack, because he's still got the half marathon in his legs, and the fact that he's still with these guys a week after running half a marathon, even though it's only just over a mile, is still really impressive. We've got Scott Overall, who's our best marathon runner at the moment. He's in the pack. Scott ran the Berlin Marathon. He ran the qualifying time for the Olympic Games, and that's brilliant. And there's the masses again, people still flooding through the start line.
Well, many individual stories will begin to unfold here, from elements of fitness to elements of raising money. But now the big story on this part of the race is that the last mile, the 5th mile by Vivian Cheruiyot, was 4 minutes and 53 seconds. Now, we saw that gap open up a little earlier. Now, that is why. 4 minutes and 53 seconds for that, from the 4th mile in 5:09, the 5th mile in 4:53, David. That is sensational.
It is amazing. The first 2 miles for her were relatively slow, and I guess she didn't probably anticipate leading after 2 miles. But once she took the initiative, she was going to dominate the race, and she wanted to break the opposition, but almost create a situation where the opposition weren't even thinking of the possibility of catching her. And, you know, to run sub 5 minute mark, because that's not a downhill part of the course, nor is it a part of the course where the wind's behind you. As I said, the conditions are completely benign, and the road is almost completely flat. So she's piling it on that. Isn't it beautiful to watch? Just eating up the ground. And back to the men's race.
Yeah, and Mathathi is really starting to push away, isn't he? He looks very good indeed. But, of course, Moses Kipsero, the Ugandan, is there and latched on to the back. It looks like Kipsero is right up there on that, one of the two athletes following him. And Kipsero on the right and Bet on the left, actually. Bet is on the left of Mathathi, just probably slightly in the lead here. There it is. There's two. That's Emmanuel Bet. Remember, he won this race in 2013. Chris Thompson still there. And we'll have the first mile in 4 minutes and 39. Well, let me tell you that they'll have to average out in 4:30 if they're going to challenge that Joseph Abuya record of 45:16. It's a tough one. Even Mo Farah came here and didn't break the 46 minutes. Mo Farah ran 46:25 on this course. But remember, today, the conditions are superb. These are the best conditions we've probably seen in 25 years since this race began in 1991 here in Portsmouth. The first first race was in Southampton, but they've been in Portsmouth here 25 years of this Great Run Series since 1991. HMS Victory, they will not notice and be concerned with the history of this great vessel as they make their way in the early stages of this race. And 2 mile markers, and there's 2 miles coming up now at, let's have a look, 8 miles to go then in the race at 9, approximately, not 9:15, something like that, 9:15.
Got Mary Rose inside that building, again in a place of great history, but for the athletes, they barely notice anything around them. They're just in their own little zone and conscious that they're piling on the pace, but there's still 5 or 6 of them together, one of which is Chris Thompson. Now, it's very early days.